We're back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Dawn. I'm Dawn of the New Era. And I know it's been a little while. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back. I am back with Susan Josephine, lovingly known as Dr. J by the New Era team. And we are going to look at today a spiritual approach or look at dragons and serpents. So excited. Thanks for coming.
Okay. So basically, the I want to talk about spiritual dragons and serpents because there's a lot of this in the internet now, in movies and gaming and stuff like that. There are a lot of dragons. And I want to talk about how that is in relationship to the spirit world. And in general, in our Judeo-Christian world, the snake is negative, and dragons are snakes that breathe fire and fly. In some cultures, they're lizards that breathe fire and fly, and in others, they're just snakes that do this. And in general, in the Judeo-Christian world, the snake is negative. It's the persuasive voice in the tree that tempts Eve. And really, between us and the audience, right, this is about keeping women down, right? Eve, the snake is female. And in most of these cultures that I've looked at, the snake is considered a female spirit and a spirit of the mother goddess, as opposed to a male spirit, although the dragon then is male in a lot of situations. And it's the snake is blamed for getting humans kicked out of the primal garden, and so on, and it's really the beginning of that tradition, that the contemporary tradition comes out of that, where humans are thought of as the center of the world and the animals are just something that we have dominion over. And snakes are then negative because in the ancient world, the snakes were, in many cultures, were thought of as the messengers between us and the spirit world. And we'll talk about how that comes out in trance. And so there's really no positive or spiritual snake understanding in our background culture on a spiritual level. Snakes are just considered dangerous, poisonous, some of them poisonous, scary. Even the Christian snake handlers think of snake handling as a test or demonstration of faith because the snake is negative. The snake is dangerous. The snake is poisonous. Not as in the ancient world where the snake was positive. The snake was a spiritual agent. And so if you can handle the snake without harm, that shows your faith because it's such a powerful negative force. They've forgotten about the spiritual level, although we still have small hints of that. For example, in the medical world, you'll see the snake on a staff, and that's a remnant memory of the times when the snakes were very much thought of as wisdom animals, especially wisdom about about herbal knowledge and healing, because the snakes shed their skin and they hibernate. These are thought of as animals that can give you knowledge of how to immortality and health. And so and the staff was the tree of life. It represented the tree of life, but we still have that kind of visual, but we don't really remember what it's about. So there are now dragons and snakes in our online gaming and in movies, but these are very different from the spiritual ones. The biggest difference that I can see is that in the background gaming and movie culture, dragons, you can ride dragons, you can tame dragons, right? In the spirit world, you can't tame a dragon. You can't ride a dragon, but you can become a dragon, so it's a really different kind of an idea. They're not horses, they're not below us, they're above us, they're part of the upper world. And to go into the upper world, we can do that as winged snakes, and we'll talk about that. And
And
so the first time that we ever did dragons, and then I know you've had contact with dragons, and I'll ask you about that. The first time was in my reality there was ever dragons was we were in a cultivating bliss retreat. It was mostly men. I think there were 15 people, something in that neighborhood, and maybe two women, and the rest were all these males. And I thought, well, it would be good to do a trance that kind of gave them something about Mother Nature. And but it wasn't a trance I'd ever done. It was one that my mother had discovered, because these are now these posture ecstatic trances that my mother, Felicitas D. Goodman, anthropologist, researched and discovered. And she had a book about this, and I looked up and found this echoes that I found this. Are we okay?
yeah, it's not echoing on our end, so you're
Okay.
good.
And
The
so
dragon's coming in.
exactly, the dragon's coming in. So I thought, well, hey, she shows this posture where people can turn into Mother Earth. It was a way of getting contact with Mother Earth. And I imagined this would be a female spirit, because snakes are female in most of these traditions. Snakes are like, for example, in I think it's the one of the Native American traditions, the snake is considered the umbilical cord between the mother, which is the earth, and humans. And so she expresses the mother. So I thought, yeah, that sounds good. So from the picture of the posture, we couldn't tell when you're supposed to stand and show your teeth and breathe through your teeth, and your fists are then at your waist, but you couldn't tell which direction, whether fists were supposed to turn in like this or out like this. And somebody asks that question. Oh, I don't know. But then my husband had just brought a tiki back from from a meeting in Hawaii, that was supposed to be a good luck tiki, and it had its face in that way, and it had the cobra, kind of a snake motif, and it had its hands painted, showed the hands out, turned out. So I said, well, why don't we try that? So we all did the hands facing out, and I rattled, and I couldn't tell what was going on. I didn't get the trance myself. Sometimes I get it myself, but this time I was just in the trance, but I was rattling, and they turned into dragons. And they were
Uh-oh.
fire breathing dragons, and they were flying around in the mountains, in these high mountains, and there were these villages of people. And for example, in John's trance was typical. What he was doing was he was flying around this image, this village in the high mountains, and he would set fire to their houses, and then the villagers would come out and he'd eat them. And then
He probably loved that.
I had a great time, but then he was starting to have some remorse. These poor villagers that he was eating, and then he decided, okay, well, maybe what he should do is to be a protector and to protect the villagers from being eaten by other fire breathing dragons. And so then for the rest of the trance, he was fighting gloriously with these other fire breathing dragons, protecting the villagers from being eaten by them. So, and this was apparently these fights between the dragons, the fire breathing dragons, seemed to be the major experience that people had. The one female did it and enjoyed it. And the other female, she couldn't handle the high energy. People were bouncing around. And there was this one guy who was bouncing around so much that he fell into the wall behind him, but he was having such a good time that he kept himself in the trance, because this was just fun. So this was not even close to what we were thinking of. And what it showed me at the time was how strong these postures are. Because we were not expecting male energy. We were not expecting to turn into fire breathing dragons. And it turned out when we did the research afterwards for this tiki that my husband had brought back, this was not a good, this was an image, a traditional image of Ku, who is a war dragon, who is a war god, and it's associated with war and with volcanoes in Hawaii, and it was a protective spirit, but it was not a friendly spirit, and it was not a female spirit. And when afterwards, I did now and again, I did other times, I did these dragon trances, and just one more of those stories. One, for example, in one of these trances, dragon trances, one of the people, this guy, apparently his father used to beat him for every little thing. He got out the belt and beat him. And he was very angry at his father. And when he went into the trance, he turned into this big fire breathing dragon, and his father was just this little guy, this little weak little human guy. And at first he thought, okay, I'm just going to blast him with my flame and give him back for all the pain that he caused me. And then it occurred to him that, well, actually, this guy was too puny to bother with. And as a dragon, it wasn't worth his energy to try to blast this guy down. And so he just went off and did other dragon business. So the idea was through these trances was that this kind of the dragon, these turns out that the Hawaii dragons don't have wings. They just, but they fly, but they are not winged. They're not winged dragons, and they breathe fire, right? And it turns out that these dragons are a kind of a violent snake person in these, but a protector. I mean, I know
Are they
you've had
always a
dragons.
protector?
I'm sorry.
Are they usually always fighters and protectors? I'm thinking I'm getting an image of is it in China where they wear the dragon
Right, exactly.
costumes?
So in the Chinese, dragon is good luck, good fortune, and it's a powerful figure, but dominating as a protector and as an earth spirit, so taking that role. But the Western dragon is a lizard with wings, and is mostly in the negative form is a warrior, and in the positive form is a protector. I mean, those two overlap. And I remember also I did a dragon trance with a couple of people more recently, where I felt the energies of the trance before the trance happened. And man, I could feel myself building up this steam to do dragony, fiery things against the people of the opposite persuasion, politics in the politics, because the political world is so deranged right now and violent, and it was just this. I could feel this brown energy, and then it became this fire energy. I did not, I cooled out, but I could see that it would be like in the Hawaiians, they have this dance, I can't remember now what it's called, where they stick out their tongues and and they get their energies up. I think it's that. It's
Channeling their dragon.
totally, you channel it, you channel the dragon. So you don't ride the dragon, the dragon can ride you.
Yes, absolutely. That makes sense. And of course, we think in art, what Game of Thrones is the big dragon show. And yeah,
Yeah.
there's only one person that can ride the dragon, but I don't think many people can in those shows. But still, it makes more sense that the dragon's moving through her. They call her the mother of
Yeah.
dragons on the show.
Well, that's nice that they give her to give the female aspect to it, right? Because that's part of the snake idea, and there's sort of a continuum because there are dragons, like you say. I mean, the Chinese dragons that are positive, female, they're female energy as opposed to male energy,
Oh.
and so that you can have the female energy or the male energy, and right in the Chinese tradition, everybody dresses up like these long lines of people, and then they're the dragon, going through. I mean, it's very beautiful. I don't know a lot about that. And in the trances, that given that we use the posture that is this Hawaiian posture, that ain't the dragon that we're calling.
Never again, huh? Well, probably not.
I mean, have you've experienced dragons, I know, in some of your trances, right? I mean,
I got a dragon tattoo. I don't know if I can show you, but I feel very called to
yeah,
dragon. But I think I'm working with dragon through the snake mostly because my Mayan astrology, I'm a red solar serpent, and
yes,
I did a medicine trance with my friend Iggy Garcia years ago to find my totem animal, and serpent came, and then my experiences in
yes.
trances would be definitely less dragon and more the snake either eating me or speak. The very last one, a giant one in the Aztec goddess one, giant snake spoke to me, and I definitely believe that I've learned to channel the fire. I was going to show you, I even brought this rattle back from Peru and was rattling it, and flames came out. I just shot out fire.
Oh, wow.
I guess I got
Wow.
blessed with the
Beautiful.
ability to channel the dragon fire. Or, they blessed me, but the fire is hot. I mean, I've had trouble with just like, ouch, my face. I'm sure you've seen an in-person trances
Yeah.
like the fire can really burn you up.
Uh,
You gotta be strong
yeah,
to
that's
channel
right. That's right.
fire. And
That's right. And as you're saying, the snake and the dragon, there's a continuum there between snakes and dragons,
Mhm.
and so when we did the last now snakes, the last I after the when we I didn't understand about the how dragons were really snakes that breathe fire. You know what I mean? I didn't get any of that, and I just assumed,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. I'm not going to even deal with this mother goddess snaky thing. But then I got how do you say a message right from the spirit world, so to speak, that this was something that I really ought to look at. And so I researched it, and okay, Earth Goddess, because in the uh, European pre-Christian cultures, the Mother Goddess, the Earth Goddess, and the tree of life were all connected with the snake. And so I thought, okay, let me try that. So it turns out that the dragon is, if you have your hands out, then you're a dragon. And if you have your hands in, you turn into a snake. I mean, there's very little difference between them. The face is the same, and you bounce around not as much when the fire breathing dragon people walk all over the place, which is why I'm not going to do it online, because I think it, you could do yourself damage, because you don't
Yeah.
doing it, knock over the altar, and not a good
Yes.
idea, right? But traditional myths about snakes, the snake was associated with the earth goddess, female, she was wise, she shed her skin, so she understood renewal, she hibernates and re-emerges, she moves silently. And this is one of the things that people got out of the snake trance when we did it online. And I think that time you were off on a journey. I don't think you were there for that. Can't remember. Were you there for that when we did that?
No, it's been a long time since I've done a snake
Yeah,
trance. It would have been years ago.
yeah. So, and this one, I can't now. So it was a snake trance. I can't imagine me doing it when you weren't, because you've always, whatever. Anyway, the snake trance. And the the basic idea is that she's she knows about plants and so on. She's got the power of being completely awake and aware of everything that's going on around her, and at the same time completely hidden. She's hidden in plain sight. So unlike when humans hide, they hide behind something, and they're not in sight, and they're thinking, okay, who can see me? The snake doesn't hide that way. The snake is right there on the branch, and you just think, oh, well, that's just part of the tree, or hanging out in the grass, and oh, that must be a root. I mean, the snakes hide in plain sight, and that's a power of being alert and there, but not seen, And there are situations where that's what you really want. And there's another power of the snake that came out in these trances, was that she, the snake has the power of being completely still without movement. And that's why she can hide in plain sight, because she doesn't move. And then moving very fast. And so you actually almost can't even see it. It's so fast. Boom, and there you go. And you got a snake bite. And what are you going to do about it, right? And that power actually, one of the times, again, you can channel it. It was right with, whenever we do these trances and I rattle, I carry that trance for a couple of weeks, some before and some after the trance session. And I was already carrying the snake and thinking about the snake. And I'm doing my morning walk, and I walk across the street, and it's a corner, and I mean, where it's an intersection, and I've got the walk sign, and all of a sudden there's this car that was speeding down the street, and then speeding around the corner, and came within, I'd say 2 feet of me. I could have touched the car, and the reason it actually didn't run me over was because I was channeling the snake. I saw the car, and I instantly, without going through the process of thinking, okay, here comes a car, what am I going to do about it? When I would have been hit. Instead, I was gone. I literally jumped and ran.
Yeah. Well, snakes, they can't see, right? They have to use their senses to,
They got
because
different senses. They got
yeah,
different senses.
senses. They got the spidey senses. You could sense it was time to
Yeah, yeah,
back
yeah.
up.
So
Oh my gosh.
it was just, I mean, in real life, I couldn't do this, you know what I mean?
Thank goodness you had the snake powers with you. Oh
Totally. I was channeling that snake, but it
my
showed
gosh.
me the power, that again, it just like the dragon, you can channel that energy, and you can imagine channeling that energy and the wisdom of the snake, and we'll get to that. And so the snake experience then, it is like for example, John's, it took, when John did the snake, he we were, this was an in-person snake trance. We were very surprised. There were lots of people came. It was the first in-person trance that I've done since the COVID. And so we didn't do all the things we usually do, the singing shaman and all that, because we didn't want to infect people,
Breathe on.
breathe on people. But there were like, oh, at least 10 people there that I'd never seen before. It was just 20 people. It was all our chairs. And one person brought 3 guests with him. And these 3 guests were from a tribe, either, and I didn't catch, either in Yucatan, a Mayan ancestor tribe, either Yucatan or in Central America there, Mesoamerica, spoke no English, and the person who brought them translated for them. And they had names so like the Native Americans. The one was a shaman, and so powerful. I mean, I could just feel the energy radiating from him. And his name was in his language meant tiger.
Oh, cool.
And the 2 others, one was like bruised his knee or something like that. I mean, it's like they named them not like we do. You have a name and then it's a nonsense syllable that you keep your whole life. This was a name as in it describes something that happened to you recently, that people are noticed about you, about your situation, and it changes through your life. And it's a very different idea of it.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
interesting. I want to
yeah,
do that.
yeah. It was interesting. It was really interesting. And but anyway, so they were there at the trance, and they recognized the snake as Quetzalcoatl, which Quetzalcoatl is the feathered serpent or the plumed serpent. It was a major deity in the pre-European contact Mesoamerica. Aztec, Inca, Mayan, or I don't know if the Incas, but Aztec, Olmec, Mayan cultures. And he recognized this as Quetzalcoatl. And so and that was, so we I always set up a medicine wheel. We set up a medicine wheel, and I laid it out and everything. And then we did the snake trance. And afterwards, and as you know, Seth was there, and he drummed while I rattled. And as you know, I don't take the offering. I it goes to renting the space and so on and so on. And so he wanted to give me a present, this shaman, afterwards. And so the guy who was translating then translated what it said. And what was fascinating about that and relevant here is it was exactly the same medicine wheel that I set up. And the snake was I set up the medicine wheel so that the snake was in the north, was an earth serpent. And his medicine wheel had the snake in the south as a wind serpent, and that's the different direction. So the snake is between us, and the snake in their culture is a earth wind snake. So it flies, but not with wings. And that, I think, is what the spirit messenger snake is. The spirit messenger snake flies on the wind as opposed to with wings. And so it flies the way that a hawk might fly, not with, just with moving through the wind.
Letting the wind move it.
And
Yeah.
the wind moves the snake. And when you think about it, I mean, if you're in a land that has poisonous snakes, the idea of a snake that can hide in the trees and then fly on the wind must be pretty scary, actually. This is a wind snake. And when people had this, the experience that people had with this snake is that it communicates between the spirit and the earthly world. And that's the same thing that the ancients had uh, for the snake. And that was the role. And I would guess that the reason that you have the snake is because you have a sort of a reincarnation contact with that ancient world where the snakes were that conduit between this world and the other world. And you, as shaman, are a contact between worlds. You know, you go between the worlds. And so the kinds of experiences that people had, and this one, like John's experience, for example, he's got an injury in one hip, so we were worried that he wouldn't be able to trance because maybe he wouldn't be able to stand. It's a standing trance. Maybe you wouldn't be able to, and you're bouncing around on your legs. Maybe you wouldn't be able to do that. But as soon as he turned into a snake, he didn't have any hips. Snakes don't have hips.
That's great.
So he didn't have any pain.
He's like, can I be a snake for the next month, please? Can I just stay the snake?
Yeah,
Aw.
really. And a lot of people who did this trance had a similar experience. It didn't have any hips. They were just these, slithering
Uh,
snakes, and his experience was that, he thought, well, okay, renewal. What do I need renewing? What is it that I don't have in my life? And he's been a vegan now for, at least 5 years, more than that. Before that, we were vegetarian, but he's gone completely vegan. And he said, okay, what he doesn't have in his life is being a predator. He's not a predator. And so he decided as snake, he could be the predator. So that was the renewal. And so he did his snaky thing, and he snuck up onto this mouse and ate this mouse. Yum, swallowing it whole, and then he got a toad and he ate that. And then there was this big rat, and that looked really yummy. And so he went for the rat, but the rat fought back and it wasn't easy for him to just grab it and swallow it, and so he decided, okay, he'd had enough. And so he went up the tree. There was a tree, and he climbed up this tree in a snakish way, and he lay on the branch and felt the sun. And then he thought, well, I said that, it's possible to fly. And so he just let go, and then he flew. And it was a calm, blissful experience. And my experience was, I turned into, I was in a world where there were all of these snakes. There were all these snakes coming towards me. And instead of in reality, I might find that pretty scary. Oh my God, all these snakes. But in the trance, it was like I was their mother. And they were all coming towards me. And then one of them ate me whole, just swallowed me. And then I became a tree. And then I was the tree. And the snakes were living in the roots, and they were hanging on my branches. And it was like this mothering experience. It's like this broad mothering experience. And then I thought, well, can I fly? Let me see if I can fly. And so I tried to get wings, because I thought I wouldn't be able to fly if I don't have wings. So I tried to get wings, and all I could do is grow another branch to the tree. I couldn't do it with wings. And so
wow.
then I just relaxed, and and then I'll talk about this next. I let the Kundalini serpent, there's a serpent from the Hindu tradition, Hindu yoga tradition, Tantra, which is coiled at the bottom of the spine. And then I kind of focused on my inner serpent, and then it went up, and then I was in the sky, and then I saw doors open. That is, it was white, and I saw these doors opening that could open in the sky. And these were doors. And then afterwards I thought about it. In ordinary reality, in most of our lives, there are doors we would really like to open, opportunities. We would
Mhm.
like X and we can't get there from here. We don't know how we can get there from here. And so you don't know, you feel like you're trapped in a room with no exit. These were the doors. And so I was thinking, okay, these could be spirit doors. And I think that's how, in the ancient world, had I had a deity in mind, that was a door to that deity. And so one of those doors then ended up for me also, and that story isn't finished yet because I've just found the door, but I haven't yet fully opened the door. I mean, it's cracked a little bit, but I haven't opened the door, which is to Goddess Tara. And that's a whole nother story I don't want to get into. But another door was to, I've been doing um, um, these crocheted wall sculptures,
I can
like
see them behind
back
you. Yeah.
back there, so, and I can get rid of them. You know what I mean? I mean, I'd like to give them away. I'd like to sell them. I'd like to get them
Yes.
in the gallery,
Into the world. Yeah.
get out there. And I haven't been, and I kept thinking for years about my art. How do I get it out the door? I can make it. I love making it, but how do I get, and in my distant past, I did this through illustration. I illustrated books, and then they got out through illustrated manuscripts. And other, I don't know, maybe 14, 16 books that way. But nowadays, making these crocheted things, I couldn't figure out a way out. And that was one of the doors. So the door opened and it said to me, it's not about an agent. What you need is a gallery. You need a place to put it. And so I had that in my head, and surprise, surprise, 2 days later or something, there was a gathering, a meeting of neighbors, a block party, and they just so happened to talk to this woman who so happened to have a gift shop in a coffee shop, part of a coffee shop in downtown Worthington, and she saw my photos of my art, and she said, "Oh yeah," so she could hang them in her window in her coffee shop gallery. And so
Perfect.
that was a way out. And now I haven't completely succeeded, but it was like there was a door there. So I
Yeah.
can see it on a personal level. Again, it's like channeling a spiritual force. And and then if there were deities, messages from deities, that's what the ancients used to use this for. And for you, the serpent being so, a flying serpent. So from this perspective, the dragon tattoo flying, it isn't the dragon of the cool god. It isn't the violence dragon.
Yeah.
What this is a snake that can fly into the upper world, can
Yes.
fly into the spirit world. That's what that is.
Like a bridge between teachers almost, or the dragon I have, he's got a heart because I'm very much work with heart. The heart is the bridge right to the lower world and the upper world and the human. And he's got a little heart, or it's a little girl dragon.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
powerful, but she's part purple and part green. This for the snake, and she's
yeah,
just got a smile. She's like, I know some
yeah, yeah,
mysterious things. But I wanted to share in the
yeah,
this wild book that I found, which is a big part of the New Era Academy. I found that the dragon,
yeah.
they talk about it being chaos, which makes sense, right? Like, because chaos medicine is purifying fire medicine. It said it's the dark side of the force, raw energy of the cosmos, a force that flows through all things. And it's probably my ability to use that force is how I birth so many things all the time. You're like, how do you do that many classes and do that much? I'm like, it's like the raw forces. It
Yeah,
moves
totally,
through
totally.
you.
It's something that needs to be controlled, right? It's something that needs to be channeled,
Does.
and then
Yeah.
when it's channeled, it can be heavy and true, right?
Yeah.
For and like a snake has two sides, right? The snake can be positive or it can be a trickster. I can be
Yeah.
looking like, oh, you're just this gentle little snaky person, and then it bites you.
Gentle little snaky person. Oh my gosh. I keep seeing, yeah, it goes within the tree. You made a great visual. It goes within the branches, but then it also goes in the earth under the tree and all of its roots. And I totally forgot, but the very first Wild Woman Fest I went to that inspired the dance party Shakti Shakedown, this woman,
Yeah,
Tony, she had us do all these different dances, and then the very last dance was in silence, and that's when I found out what I blacked out and became snake and jaguar. I took turns, but the snake was, it had no thoughts. It was
yeah,
pulsing. I was pulsing
yeah,
with the energy that the animals feel in the ground
yeah,
and the roots. It's just a
yeah. Oh,
primordial
wow, that is,
pure force. It was powerful. I remember being way in the back
yeah,
of my mind going, what is this? Go for it.
yeah.
The snake
I mean,
is,
and
it's
that is so true. I mean, just like the story I told about getting out of the way of this stupid car, it's like, it's not thought,
not.
it's this other kind of way of being in the world, right? I mean, it's not through our mind.
It's connected to mother. So you said it's that
Absolutely.
connection to the sacred mother. Wow. Very powerful
Yeah,
stuff. I'm
absolutely.
a fan.
Sacred Mother. Yeah, and so one more thought about this is the the Kundalini serpent. And this serpent, and that's, I hear echoes of that in what you're saying in the heart and so on, because when Kundalini rises, and this can be done through breath and through yoga and mantras, certain things, when this Kundalini, when the snake rises, it goes through the different chakras, and the chakras are these energy centers on the body. And these 6 or 7, depending upon the tradition, energy centers. And so when it goes through one of these energy centers, just as you're saying, it puts it opens it up. So
Mhm.
you have the heart snake opens up the energy of the heart chakra, which is this bliss. The opening is this bliss experience. And one of the things that people experienced in this trance was bliss. And that's
Mhm.
also the Kundalini. It's like you experience the bliss and then you experience the powers of that particular center in your body. And when your snake is then opening in the heart, and then the third eye, and then gives you that wisdom, that overlook, that understanding of the big picture. You can see the future that way through the third eye, and again, it's not through your mind. It's a snake power, right? So it's through the energies. It's these energies that pour in and pour through. And so the idea is that you open these chakras, and then those that release these powers through the snake that comes up from the bottom and then goes up to the top. So again, it's this idea that to release the energies of the snake, you go up, 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 up into the sky.
Oh, right. Yeah, the feathered, the
Yeah,
winged one.
yeah, yeah,
It's beautiful. I love it.
yeah, yeah,
I've heard that the Kundalini naturally, I read a book by Barbara Handclough that the Kundalini naturally tries to rise through between 41 and 44. In other words, the midlife crisis can because it's the coiled serpent trying to channel that energy to get you connected to the divine so you have a fully charged next part of your life. And she
yeah,
even
yeah, yeah,
recommends, like, don't try to do those breath and yoga practices in your 20. Don't raise that kundalini too soon because it can create mental illness, which is an interesting theory. Because I know one of my friends that I had, she definitely, I felt like through dance, it went up too
yeah,
fast and too soon. And then her perception, it wasn't pure, it became skewed because that energy coiled up too soon. I don't know if
Well,
that's
that's
the
interesting.
truth or
I've
not.
never heard that here. I mean, I've never heard that idea that there was a, but I can understand how, because these are very powerful energies. And when you're not, if you're not ready for it, I mean, completely, if you're not ready for it, you can't handle it. You don't know
Yeah.
where to put it. You don't know, and you've still got that mind. You don't know. And one of the messages that I wanted to get across here is this idea that this is energy that isn't through the intellect. That warps it, right? It's energy. It's pure. It's pure energy. You know, and if you're trying to channel it through your brain, as in, okay, thought, you know, kind of intellectualizing it, it warps it. And that might be this idea, or it could give you, and also it can be, it can rise energies that you can't handle because you don't know what to do with it. You don't know what it's about, you know, and then you act out those energies. So for example, when I had that dragon energy in me, if I decided to go and spew fire at everybody, I might have cracked all my relationships, you know.
Well, there is that. I must say, sometimes you know, the sacred warrior is. It sounds like the warrior is attuned also to the dragon, and I
That's
think
right.
that just like everything in this world of polarity, there's a light and a shadow, and the shadow of the warrior, or being able to spew fire, is definitely burning relationships, or keeping people away from you with that fire.
Totally, burning relationships and so on. And the idea is too that it's good for the warrior because the warrior has to be able to act like the snake, pre-thought, fast, not
That's right.
post-thought, not, okay, let me think, there's this guy, he's maybe 20 feet away, let me see, he's slightly to my left, you know, you're dead by then.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So
So
it's a
you
good
gotta,
medicine. Thank
so
you,
you gotta
Snake.
have that, totally, you gotta have that energy up, you know, up
Mhm.
in the snake. And then that means, so, you know, as you and I have also experienced, you really have to you have to be pure. It's, you know, you have to know how to carry this. So I can see this idea of doing it too young, right? When you
Yeah.
just don't know how to carry it. And then it could come out inappropriately in the wrong times, you know, or it could come up with contacts with the spirit world that you can't understand and don't know how to deal with, you know. You don't know what this means. What am I supposed to do? You know,
That's right. Yeah. Got it. There's a wildness to it, especially if it's attuned to chaos, that got to be the emotional maturity that can come with time, and not being too young. It like keeps you safe when if you're going to work with it for sure.
that's right.
Don't want to be
That's right.
reckless. Like, yeah. So
Yeah, that's
what's
right. That's
next? What's our next one going to be to give our
right.
listeners a
I
little
know.
something to be excited about?
Okay, that's a good idea. Well, you know, we didn't actually succeed in the spiritualist one, so maybe we should do that one again. Would that be okay? Does that sound good to you?
Absolutely. That
Yeah, because
sounds
I think
fantastic.
that was a good thing to do, because and that would explain a little bit about why people are so reluctant to trust people who claim to be able to tell the future and have spiritual experiences, you know, and this kind of this zag in history, you know, not, you know, so maybe
Perfect.
why don't
I
we do that
remember
next?
that one
Yeah,
because they really do. Of course, there's a new wave of everyone wanting to read tarot cards, and witches are really popular, but at the same time, there's a whole nother belief of the population that's like doesn't want that integrated into society. And man, the spiritualists, I'm just like, bring it back into, let's integrate it into the full picture of the new era rather than keep it
into
separate, or catchy, a
totally.
catchy little fun thing.
Because people, you know, the woo woo stuff, right? You
Yeah.
know, the you know,
And like
that somehow you're, if you do this, you're somehow crazy or not rational or something like that. So it'd be good to kind of air that linen.
perfect. Well, then that's what we will do. Thank you.